Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks again for joining us for today's show. Yesterday, this was a system bringing the strong winds to the southeast coast there, gusting over 65 miles an hour in some areas. And then back to the west, we had some moisture moving on through, and kind of a weak disturbance here over southern Cook Inlet, some more stuff out over the southeast Bering Sea. Well, today that system moved out and brought a little bit of light snow showers to the southwest coast. That's now all offshore, moving north of the Pribilofs and continue to the north and then drop down to the south. And then for the southeast coast, here's that storm continuing westward and currently moving into the east coast of the Kenai Peninsula there. And that brought some storm force winds to the North Gulf Coast today. On the chart this afternoon, right about there, weakening to 985 millibars, and then a trough swinging up again with the gusty winds and some rain, nothing too terribly heavy there. About a half inch in Yakutat during the daytime today, while Cordova picked up about 0.12 of an inch. And then some moisture down across Kodiak Island with areas of light rain and snow in over the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutian Range. Up to the north, the interior, not much of a change, just variably cloudy in places, others seeing a little more clearing. But breezing conditions, east winds 10 to 20 with maybe some gusts to 30, 35 miles an hour in some higher exposed elevations there. And that condition all the way back out to the west here. Windier up along the northwest coast and the Seward Peninsula today, where Point Hope had a gust to 63 miles per hour and somewhere a little over 60 miles an hour occurring at Golovin Airport. Otherwise, again, just some clouds, dry conditions, and then the area of snow showers here south of Nunivak Island continuing to pull off to the east. And there's a next system rolling in, and that'll currently spreading some rain up across Dixon Entrance, and that'll increase the winds again as it pulls back to the northwest. But this one's weaker than this one was when it was in the same location there yesterday. Otherwise, we've got a little bit of light snow spreading up over the Wrangell Mountains in the eastern Copper River Basin. Some of that getting up into the Northway area, and then, or actually Northway to Eagle. There's some light snow with that batch there south of that 1,027 millibar high. And along the Arctic coast, wind's not too bad up there on the light side with a few isolated flurries there along the eastern Arctic coast. And the winds from about Point Lay again on down the coastline there pick up considerably, and northerlies at about 40 miles an hour through the Bering Strait, and then turning more north-northeasterly across the St. Lawrence Island area. Very weak trough right through here, kept some showery conditions in across the eastern Aleutians, and to a greater extent there with the low center out west of Adak to about Shemya. And the forecast for tonight, that thing continues to slowly slide off to the south, leaving behind just some widely scattered snow showers for the Aleutians and the southern Bering Sea. Winds on the light side here from Adak and Atka all the way up into the Bristol Bay area, and less wind now, seeing those gusts 30 to 40 miles an hour in Bethel today. That'll diminish tonight here as the gradient relaxes, but still looking at gale force winds from St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait up to the northwest coast there. and no change over the interior, except the introduction of this moisture spreading northwestward. Look for a narrow band of very light snow or flurries, again from about Eagle southwestward along the Alaska Range there on the eastern slopes of the mountains. And then as that trough, or that low center, weakens into a trough quite rapidly here this evening and overnight tonight, that'll bring some maybe some scattered snow showers, may get west of the mountains here, but again, the heavier amounts will be over western Prince William Sound all the way down into the Barren Islands over toward Kamishak Bay. Just some widely scattered showers for Kodiak Island. And the next storm pulling northward, look for the winds to increase again across the southeast coastal areas, and rain and precipitation spreading northward throughout the night, but it looks to be on the light side, nothing really heavy. For tomorrow, again, even less wind out here over the Aleutians and the southern Bering Sea. Still quite breezy though from St. Lawrence Island on up into the northwest coast there. And again through the interior, still a pretty tight gradient. We've got that higher pressure ridging in along the Arctic coast there and over the north slope. So about the Brooks Range into the central interior, those gusty winds continue. And then we're looking at, again, the only moisture would be some flurries there from the eastern interior back to the west, and that kind of drops down some snow showers into the Kilbrook Mountains to about Togiak Bay. And then got a front here right along the coast, not all that strong, but be some areas of light rain with scattered showers over toward the border and to the east, and some periods of rain, or a chance of rain, spreads into Cordova in the afternoon. Prince William Sound, though, south central Alaska, pretty dry and maybe even partly cloudy to mostly cloudy up across the Copper River Basin. And then a little bit of light rain spreading to the west there across Kodiak Island, possibly into Kamishak Bay. Otherwise, the Alaska Peninsula will see scattered showers of rain or snow, but nothing, again, that'll amount to very much at all. And no change out over the Aleutians. The outlook for Wednesday, seeing the gradient will relax now up here over the northern interior areas. So diminishing winds and still breezy, but not quite as windy here for the northwest coast. And the Arctic coast, pretty calm, with just barely even a breeze going on up there, but some moisture dropping southward. Probably look for some clouds, patchy fog at times there along the central and east side areas, with possible VFR here on the west side. Southeast coast, just some scattered showers, mostly cloudy skies there. The next system down to the south, way down to the south center, not even on the map, and the front well south of the Queen Charlottes. So that won't be affecting the area until probably maybe late Wednesday night or Thursday. Otherwise, that one low center troughs out and moves here over the Bristol Bay area in the Alaska Peninsula. So we're looking at some scattered showers, Gulf of Alaska, southwestward to Kodiak Island, and then scattered showers also for the Alaska Peninsula. Possible light snow showers here around the Alaska Range, but very light amounts, just mostly cloudy skies up over the central interior in the northern Copper River Basin. Possible flurries also up here, Kotzebue Sound and the Seward Peninsula out in the Norton Sound across St. Lawrence Island, but again, nothing measurable falling. Fair conditions up across the Brooks Range and the North Slope areas. And looking at pretty light winds again, eastern Aleutians, central Aleutians really laid down. They're kind of under a area high pressure, not very strong. Actually, conditions are so calm because of really a lack of storminess, but the next system just edging onto the picture there. Still well southwest of Shimei and Attu. Temperatures this afternoon across the Panhandle look like this, mostly in the 40s, 47 at Sitka, the warm spot in the state today. Otherwise 33 up at Skagway, 45 down at Klawock with a 39 reading at Yakutat. Cordova up to 41, 0 at Gulkana in the Copper River Basin. Otherwise Valdez was up to 30. Mid to upper 20s for northern Cook Inlet, warming to 32 down at Homer. Kodiak State Airport topped out at 39 this afternoon, with near 10 or a little above there from Northway back to Fairbanks. And then you go below 0 up in the upper Yukon Valley there with -1 at Bettles. And then well below 0 here for the Brooks Range area with -27 at Arctic Village, -19 there at Umiat Airport or Airfield, and along the Arctic coast 10 to 25 below 0 across much of the area, and then it warms up significantly. We're back above 0 here over the northwest areas, but Deering at -8, 14 at White Mountain. Nome had 16 today, and 0 at Shishmaref, 2 degrees at Tin City, and just 10 at Savunga. A little above 0 here through the west and southwest interior with McGrath at 13. St. Michael, 13 also, 16 at Amonic. Cape Romanzoff, 14 degrees, Bethel, 10. And then for the Bering Sea, mid-30s there for the Pribilofs, mid-30s also here for the Aleutians, but 32 out at Shemya, 36 at Unalaska, 30s to lower 40s for the western Alaska Peninsula, 20s for Bristol Bay. Lows for tonight, 30s to maybe lower 40s here for the Panhandle, and lower to mid-30s for the North Gulf Coast, and then into or maybe around 20 degrees for south central Alaska. North of the mountains, though, below 0, and then quite a ways below 0 here to maybe 30, 35 below over the upper Yukon Valley. Actually, Beaver currently is sitting at 31 below 0, 25 to 30 or so below 0 for the North Slope, and a little above 0 for the Yukon Delta, teens and 20s for Bristol Bay, 30s the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. St. Lawrence Island should fall to the dark side of 0 by morning, and 27 at St. Paul. For the highs tomorrow, not much milder, looking for a high of just 29 there at St. Paul, and then 30s, mid to upper 30s for the Aleutians, and 20s here. Southern Alaska, cooler in the Copper River Basin, and also up to the north there with the North Slope and the northeast interior staying below 0 again the entire day, about like or conditions temperature-wise will be much like today for the southeast coast. Flying weather, marginal VFR in the forecast, Dixon entrance all the way up to the passes there, and then IFR, Prince William Sound southwestward, and that'll probably cover the coastline of the southern Kenai Peninsula down into Kodiak Island. VFR for Cook Inlet, the Copper River Basin, and the Tanana Valley, and then with that moisture up here, could be areas of marginal VFR right through there. Marginal VFR also for the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians, with the IFR stuff from the Pribilofs northward, St. Lawrence Island into the Bering Strait, and then IFR areas of for the eastern Arctic coast. And for passes, Anatuvik will be wide open tomorrow, no problems there. Adigan as well. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR again possible on the eastern entrance, otherwise passes will be VFR. And for Rainy, that same possibility of seeing lower stuff there on the eastern entrance, but VFR through the pass and to the west. Windy though, both sides, VFR. Isabel looking good, and Mentasta remains open. And also for Tanita, VFR. Portage starting out VFR, and then some moisture may slide up into western Prince William Sound tomorrow afternoon and make it a little marginal on the eastern approach. Chilkoot and White, occasionally marginal. And the freezing levels here at the surface right near the Pribilofs into Bristol Bay, and then right up along the coastline here with 2,000 feet in about the same position right across Shelikof Strait, North Gulf Coast, and then southeastward. As far as icing goes, one batch down here over the southern panhandle, about 3,000 to 12,000 feet of just light icing there, and also up to the north, and then an area zone there from the eastern Gulf Coast down into Kodiak Island, staying mostly to the south, but this area nudging north and northwestward throughout the day. So some of that could get up into western Prince William Sound later tomorrow afternoon. And the winds aloft chart showing a jet stream well south of the area here. That's why the storms are not all that strong now, coming up with this trough here rotating northwestward into the Gulf, with a stronger activity staying down to the south. So looking at 9,000 feet, southerlies at about 35 knots, eastern Gulf of Alaska, lighter over the Panhandle, and just 10 to 15 here over southern Alaska. We're still looking at that area of strong winds here from the upper Yukon Valley out across the northern Bering Sea there, with possible northeasterlies at 60 knots across the western Brooks Range. And not too bad for the Aleutians, 10 to 20 knots there. And taking a look at 3,000 feet, much the same pattern out in this area, strongest up here over the northwest, and then diminishing as you head southwest, just 10 to 20 there over the Aleutians. And this low south of Kodiak Island, not much wind associated with that, very light here as you can see over southern Alaska and into the Gulf. Could be a narrow band of stronger winds there just off the southeast coast. And as far as turbulence goes, most of it off the coast or along the coastline there to possibly Yakutat and Cape Yakataga. Smooth here through southern Alaska. and then when those winds continue to blow up over the north central interior, occasional moderate chop from the upper Yukon Valley right out across the Seward Peninsula to possibly as far north as Kivalina and the western Arctic coast. Lighter also down here to about Nunivak Island, but for Bristol Bay, the Aleutians, pretty smooth flying for tomorrow. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of Alaska Public Media and the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest last time was Keith Early. Keith is a very experienced pilot, both a military pilot, corporate pilot, and now a FedEx captain. And I'm glad we're able to get him back tonight. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
So last time, Keith, you talked about the A-10 and a remarkable mission, night mission, when I think you said it was 35 below. But anyway, you also spent a couple years flying the F-16. What was that like?
The F-16 was a challenge because it was such a fast-paced flight. We had very limited on fuel. The missions were normally 50 minutes to an hour, and there was an awful lot to accomplish in that time. Of course, the airplane is moving very fast, but in all of the activities that we had to complete within one mission for training, you couldn't take more than a few seconds to look around outside the cockpit to really enjoy, the perspective of what you were actually doing. It was all very, very task-oriented, and the only appropriate word would be intense.
So let's talk a little bit about, because a lot of our viewers may have experience in one type of aircraft, and or sometimes more than one, but you've flown a lot of different kind of aircraft. So let's talk about the F-16 and the MD-11. I think you told me the MD-11 pretty difficult airplane to fly, or to land anyway.
Right.
Is that the case, and how would it compare to the F-16?
Well, the F-16 is very responsive and nimble and light, and you can put it down anywhere you want, and it's forgiving, with the exception of being a high-performance fighter. The MD-11 in the world of airline transport is the probably most challenging airplane to land that's still out there flying operationally. Has a very high approach speed, generally around 165 knots, and a very small window during the landing phase below 50 feet where you have to put the airplane in the landing attitude and modulate your power so that you don't damage the airplane or have a bad experience on landing.
So one of the things that we talked a little bit about was your missions with FedEx are usually long, over wide expanses of water,
Right.
to exotic places.
Right.
But it occurred to me that after I don't know what, 8 or 10 or 12-hour flight, whatever it is, all of a sudden now you are in the most critical phase of flight, flying an airplane with the MD-11 that's pretty challenging to land. What techniques do you all use? Maybe CRM or cockpit using the other crew member. How do you deal with that challenge?
Well, as you come into the landing phase, the descent from altitude down to landing, first of all, you thoroughly brief your approach and landing. You cover all of the factors that might be incidental to safety on the approach and landing. And we have very well-defined roles as pilot flying and pilot monitoring, as do the other major airlines. And the pilot who briefs and flies the let-down approach and landing is very carefully monitored by the pilot monitoring, and the pilot monitoring sees any deviations from procedure or from aircraft parameters. Anything that he sees that's can lead to an unsafe event is fully empowered to speak up and call a go-around or to interrupt the sequence of events in the interest of safety. And which is quite a bit of a change from a traditional role of a captain, where the captain's kind of the king of the roost and what the captain says goes. Even the most junior first officer at FedEx and at other airlines is empowered to break the sequence of events in the interest of safety.
So I'm not sure this is, I don't really want to delve into this, but it occurs to me that may not be as well understood in other countries and other cultures. But certainly having that ability to talk across the cockpit is so important. Any thoughts on, we've got about a minute and a few seconds left, thoughts about how some of your military flying or corporate experience might apply to small airplanes?
There's probably the one that the small aviation is most susceptible to because it doesn't receive the attention that they do in the airline world, and that is complacency. Every flight is an opportunity to hurt yourself, and if you are going to fly from point A to point B, or to go out and lay trap lines, or a sightseeing tour with friends, you are as susceptible on that flight to making a mistake or being the victim of circumstances as you are on your very first training flight as a new student. So complacency is quite a risk in the
Let's
general
do
aviation
this.
world.
I'm going to have you on one more time because you've got a couple of stories I want you to tell about some specific things that happened to you, kind of there I was. So if I can get you back one more time.
Be happy to come back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. I want to remind you that the Safety Foundation is member supported. Need you to renew your membership for 2016. And of course, you can go to www.aasfonline.org and do that. Until next time, fly safe.
Welcome back. Well, the sea ice analysis from last Friday looked like this, with some south of St. Lawrence Island and then on down to Nunivak Island there. And for today, you can see that's gotten heavier now. We've got the white area south of the island, and everything's farther to the south and southwest, and then even increasing down here into Kuskokwim Bay now. Looks like it's just about all completely ice covered. Still pretty sparse there in Bristol Bay. And the forecast for the next 5 days is everything's going to continue to move south and southwestward with the colder area and over the area and the continued north and northeasterly winds. For the southeast coast, so we've got small craft advisories here on the central and south coast, and gales to the north, all out of the southeast. Southeasterlies up to 25 for Clarence Strait, and then dropping off to 20 knots for Stevens Passage. Northern Canal looking northerly at about 20. No change up there for Wednesday. Easterlies 20 for Stevens Passage, and higher end small craft advisories there for Clarence Strait. And then again, that next system well down to the south there, but should, or at least forecasting 35 knot winds, increasing to 35 knots in the afternoon. Small craft advisories out of the east for the north coast. Prince William Sound, Northern Cook Inlet, light winds out of the northeast for tomorrow, about 20 knots, Southern Cook Inlet into the Kamishak Bay area. Small craft advisories for Shelikof Strait, where they'll be a little brisker, and then northeast, 35 for the North Gulf Coast. Small craft advisories on to the west, east side of Kodiak Island, a little bit lighter. And for Wednesday, everything turns more easterly on the wind direction with 25 knots there for Kodiak Island, again northeast and Shelikof Strait. East 25, small craft advisories, Southern Cook Inlet into Kamishak Bay, and then easterlies 20 to 25 for the North Gulf Coast. No change for Prince William Sound. Bristol Bay northeast at 20 with the peninsula, same direction at about 15 with 20 knot winds southwest of Sitkinak. Then for Wednesday, very light winds here for the peninsula, north to northeast at about 15 and the northeast 20 for Bristol Bay and the water southwest of Kodiak Island. Out in the Aleutians in the west, small craft northeasterlies out there, seas up to 13 feet, but pretty light here, north to northeast, 15 to 20 for Adak and Atka, and northerlies to northeasterlies, only at 15 knots for the eastern Aleutians with 5 to 7 foot seas. And for Wednesday, those turn northwesterly, 15 to 20 knots, so not very strong at all. Really getting light here, laying down good for the central Aleutians. Variable to north or northwest, just 10 knots, 6 to 7 foot seas, and then just 20 knot winds out in the western zone. For the southwest coast, brisk wind advisories north of Nunivak Island, gales for the northern Bering Sea with heavy freezing spray, and those gales extend up again across St. Lawrence Island, just 15 knots for the Pribilofs. And then even lighter winds coming up. So a couple of light wind days for St. Paul and St. George there. Brisk wind or small craft advisories for the northern Bering Sea. Still heavy freezing spray occurring out in this area. Gales continue for St. Lawrence Island. South of Nunivak Island, pretty light out of the northeast. Up along the Arctic coast on the east side, north to northwest, 10 to 15 knots. Northerlies at 15 for the central coast. Northeast winds, that 15-knot wind, probably by the time you get to Point Lay, that's where they'll increase southwestward. And from Cape Beaufort all the way down to Wales, there'll be gales out of the northeast. For Wednesday, brisk wind advisories now from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, north to northeast at 30. Lightening up here for the west side, and pretty light winds for the central and eastern Arctic coast, 5 to 15 knots. For tonight's weather, again, there's a next system moving in, currently spreading rain across Dixon Entrance into the southern panhandle. They'll gradually lift northward tonight, so areas of rain here spreading northward with the gustiest winds right along the coastline, with fair conditions here over the southeast interior, and some leftover moisture as that trough weakens and swings westward here during the evening hours. A few scattered snow showers could get into Cook Inlet, but the heaviest stuff will be western Prince William Sound, the Kenai Peninsula, and then kind of re-enhancing as it hits the upslope areas of the east side of the western Alaska Range, and a band of light snow up into the eastern interior. Windy conditions continue over the north central interior. Again, 15 to 30 miles an hour, higher gusts to possibly 40 in the exposed higher elevations. Lighter winds under this ridging along the Arctic coast up in that area, and not too bad out over the Aleutians in the Bering Sea. So for tomorrow, not much change out here except less wind, less snow showers. Stays kind of damp at times over the panhandle, and some moisture spreads into Kodiak Island. Still windy up in the north. Pretty nice day tomorrow over southern Alaska, a narrow band of moisture in between. And for Wednesday, scattered showers, isolated scattered showers for the panhandle into the Gulf of Alaska. Less wind over the interior, and a trough will bring a little bit of moisture into Bristol Bay.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Find a living in fisheries. The UAS Fisheries Technology Program offers online study from anywhere in Alaska, plus labs and workshops in many Alaska towns.
Is most likely a chum.
Find your living without leaving where you are. Fisheries Technology from UAS.